Hey everybody, it's September 17th, 2014. My name's Dan Boole, president of 65 Amps. My good friend Miles Rose over my shoulder here. And we're here to discuss possible new products for 65 for the upcoming year. Got a few ideas in mind. Just kind of want to bounce it off of you and see what you think. We've had a really good pre-show here, and we're talking about single-ended amps and all sorts of other variations. And lots of good ideas in the hopper. I'm not sure exactly what we're going to do. I kind of wanted to take your guys' temperature on it. I think I'll put up a poll here in a little bit, and we'll have a look and see. Just real quick to tie a bow around the end of last week's show. I ruffled a lot of feathers last week. A lot of people getting mad at me for being what I think is honest and saying that you need to be a skeptical, cynical buyer when you buy stuff and do your research so that you don't get ripped off like Vertex ripped off a lot of people. I got mostly positive messages, about 9 or 10 to 1 positive over negative. But there's some guys on the gear page that feel that I insulted them, and I'm here to say I did not mean to insult you, and I think you're interpreting my intentions incorrectly. I'm being honest and frank. Not Frank Falbo, but frank as far as telling you the truth. There's a lot of guys on the gear page that are predators. Speak of the devil. Oh, did he just walk up? There's a lot of guys on the gear page that are taking advantage of people. And all of us manufacturers see it all the time. And I thought it was time someone spoke up. So I have lots of happy people about it and a few unhappy people. So I'm sorry about that. Certainly didn't mean it. But anyway, it's all said and done. Vertex is dead. Hey, here, speaking of Vertex. Vertex is said and done. You got a wah that you like and you just overpaid for it. I'm very sorry about that. But don't be hurt. Certainly don't mean it that way. Anyway, next, on to what we're going to do for 2015. Frank got a haircut. Look at him. He's all clean and young.
I don't know. He always looks pretty trendy.
Oh, yeah. Reverend Wolf says, make a wah-wah pedal. Yeah, I'll do it. Boss Amps just asked, where is Frank? The 65 RE150 tape echo. Yeah, okay. I'll do that. What other things could we clone? Well, we cloned the Rangemaster, the Mark II Professional, and the Fuzz Face. Those are the only really clones we've done. I guess I could clone some other old effects if you like them. I don't know if I'd sell any or not. But yeah, a good tape echo would be fantastic, wouldn't it? Because I've got my Echoplex. Maybe I can just clone the Echoplex.
But you can't buy tape anymore.
You can't?
I don't know. It's tough.
Is it hard?
You know, I mean, where do you go?
Actually, are you recording right now?
Yeah, we just started recording right before you walked up because we gave up
I
on
mean, you
you.
can go to a studio and get half-inch stuff and 1-inch and 2-inch stuff, but where do you get
Quarter inch, isn't it?
quarter-inch? Yeah.
Or is it half inch? I don't know.
No, it's quarter-inch.
Quarter inch. Well, anyway,
Even half-track machines are.
so here's some of the things I'm thinking about for next year. So I've got a lot of requests in both directions from the whiskey. A lot of guys that want the 100-watt version of it, which would be really easy, and we just upgrade the transformers and the power section and be basically the same. I might add a couple of things to it, but the other is to do a small version of it. A lot of guys say, I love it. It's just too loud, of course, because it's 50 watts. But they like the tone of it. I think it'll translate pretty well to EL84s. So that'd be the first time we did an EL84 amp with, grid bias and a master volume. Why clone when you can just repaint? Yeah, the Shin I fuzz, but that's not germanium. I mean, we might do those because those are just darn cool. And I'm going to be 100% honest and tell you they're just going to be clones with a couple of enhancements on them. But so it's Color Octavia or Color Zonk machine. Well, I like something called a Zonk machine. That's pretty sweet. No, I'm not going to do any TS 808 or 909 stuff. That's been so done.
Has anybody ever done that?
This
Tube screamer?
what's today? Wednesday?
Yeah.
Only 3 guys this week.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, and if I'm to confess, I'm not a big fan of the Tube Screamer. I hear other people play it and it sounds really good, but when I play it, I just don't get along with it. So,
If I even have one of those in a case when I play, it sounds awful.
yeah, and I have like the hand-wired one here.
Yeah, and if I were to play
And I
guitar
actually
right
like the
now, it would sound really bad.
Yeah.
And I actually,
Even just
Even with the tube screamer.
and I
even
think
setting this on
there's
my
a
leg.
Keeley modded one there
Yeah.
next to it, right? Or is that just a regular old one?
I don't know.
Oh, this is a Keeley one. Yeah, this is. Oh, it's got dog hair on,
Dog hair
on the
makes it
Velcro.
better.
Oh man,
That's cool.
these damn dogs. I'm gonna shave them. I'm gonna shave them down. So I have like both of these. This is one Robert Keeley did. Now here's a good example for you. Robert Keeley, who's a really, really nice guy, will take someone else's pedal and mod it and then put his sticker on it. He's not lying to you. This is a good guy. But what he's doing is no different than what... And this costs a lot more than a Tube Screamer does if you go to Guitar Center. And it's worth it because he does a great job. And he's also just a cool dude. If you've ever met Rob, he's really sweet. He's from Oklahoma. He's a gentleman, you know. Hey, y'all, how you doing? Good to hear from you. He's a sweet dude. But then I have this hand-wired one. I don't know, man. They're, I don't know that there's enough of those around, I guess, is my point.
Just a guitar.
How about a 65 valve overdrive that isn't starved plate?
Whoa.
Well, that's in theory a good thing to do, but the power supply for that is the problem. Because if you want to have a 12X7 that isn't starved, I need to give it about 200 volts.
Frank, do you want to sit over here because you're a lot more interesting than I am?
No.
And giving a tube 200 volts usually takes a transformer.
And I might die.
That would be a very large pedal.
We want that, I can't.
That's
We want that.
What does this say, Phil?
That could happen to me.
Wasn't there other germanium goodies that are left?
You.
Wasn't till I got the Ventura, I totally got your Klon opinions. Oh, refresh me. What did I say about Klons? I mean, I think I know. My opinion's been, I don't get it. I mean, they're good, but I don't know why they're worth $1,500.
Neither does he.
Right.
You know, he's actually he comes off as a great guy in interviews and stuff. He's like, look, I didn't create that.
That's right. He's very honest about that,
Yeah.
isn't he? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. What's his name? I always forget his
I
name.
don't remember.
I've heard he's a great guy, and yeah, and he's like, I had nothing to do with the frenzy around this pedal. Don't think it's me. But
Send it
the original Klons had a germanium
Klon.
transistor in it. Jim Klon. No, that's his
Steve
brother
Klon.
Murray. His brother Murray Klon from Klon and Leibowitz in Century City. Yeah, no, the original Klons I've heard are great, and they have a germanium transistor in it, along with some silicon ones. But the main driver is a germanium, which is kind of what I thought we'd do with the Shenai thing, is put one germanium in there and give it some flavor. I don't know, man, this window's not scrolling. What Klon opinion? Yeah, Reverend Randy says, Robert Keeley is a very nice guy as well as an honest entrepreneur. Yeah, he is. Said it sounded like an old Les Paul. I said the Klon sounds like an old Les Paul? I think you must be thinking of somebody else. Oh, T-shirts. Yeah, I know. I'm going to do a run of shirts. Every week I go, you know, this week is the week I'm going to order shirts.
How's that working out so far?
Well, I'll say it again next week. I'm very consistent. I'm very consistent about my plans to order T-shirts. Bob, I hear you loud and clear, and you've called me on that several times, and thank you for doing it. I need the reminder, or the proverbial kick in the ass, as it might be. So,
How about not so proverbial?
oh yeah. So the tone vents on the bottom of the cab acting as cab vents? What? Oh, the joke on our pedals is tone vents. It's just a vent. It doesn't do anything other than look nice. The vents on the amps have a purpose. It's to keep the amp cool because they're cathode biased amps, so they can get really, really hot when you're not playing, especially. But it creates a nice little draft. And they're aesthetic. I mean, they look like they do. I'm replacing my clone with a 65 channel switcher. Oh, okay.
Yeah, sometimes the channel 2 of an amp.
Bill Finnegan, is that the guy?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's right.
yeah, that sounds right.
Bill Finnegan. Yeah, I've never met the guy. I've heard he's really nice. I heard he's very cool. But yeah, you're right, Frank. That's right. He's gone out publicly and said, I have nothing to do with this feeding frenzy around these pedals.
Right.
Let's see if we can get you on camera. a
Oh,
little
it's
more.
fine. I'm not that good looking.
Well, you shaved today. Oh, now we cut off Miles. Look,
Well,
here's a
yeah.
story. Or no, what's it? Miles will remember this. Frank won't.
I remember that. Nick at Night reruns.
My Three Sons with Fred McMurray.
Was there somebody named Ernie in that?
Yeah.
Yes, that was one of the
Okay,
kids.
The girlfriend of Ernie in
Yeah.
the show,
Okay.
Julia Benjamin,
Ah.
was almost ex-wife number 4.
Then you found out she was on My Three Sons and said, no way.
No, we're still good friends.
Miles is dating a TV star. So Kirk Spencer says, Dan, 65 amps mission statement. At least what your website states as your mission is to bring us greater versions of those classic 60s amps. Yeah, that's what I like. 60s and 70s, but 60s. Rock on Willie says, you could have made a mint on all the t-shirt requests I've seen on the show. Yeah, I know. I mean, I literally get one every day. But I'm a schmuck, I admit it. And there's a thread on the gear page that proves it. But
It's been so long.
Yeah,
since
I'll
I
make
made
t-shirts.
that all my 65 amps t-shirts are like,
are they worn out?
they're gone. Yeah, I mean, they're,
Oh, really?
yeah.
Like girls that spent the night at your house took off with them?
Nobody gets to spend the night at my house.
Oh.
It's like when I have a boat, I get on a boat to get away from people. I go to my house to get away from people.
I'm going to take this reminder about t-shirts seriously. Foot switches with LEDs. Oh, we have those now. More like a 3-hour tour. Yeah, okay, Phil. Fair enough. Which one am I? Am I Gilligan or the Professor or Ginger? No.
I'm talking about your hair or your character traits.
Both.
You're an amalgam.
Yeah, but think about the horizontal symmetry of having the amp vents on the bottom of that cab over ports. And yeah, okay, Haas. I'll think about.
Good place to
I see some impracticalities with having vents on the bottom of the cabinet, but figure out which deadly sin you are. Yeah, more mensch than schmuck. Ah, thanks, Phil.
Aw.
Yeah, I'll take that as a compliment. Just like Paul Cochran and the hype over Tim. I don't know. The Tim pedal's really good, I think. Paul's a nice guy. Did he create the hype, or are you
No, I
saying
think that's what they're saying. is
he
that
didn't
it's-
create it?
Right. It's the
Right.
same kind of thing. These are guys that just build good gear.
Yeah.
And they're, because of scarcity, some people have turned that into a feeding frenzy and overpaid, or whatever, not overpaid, paid more money for the products
Yeah.
because they've been scarce.
Supply and demand went nuts.
Yes, and but the man himself is not a conniving person. Who
Yeah,
has
Paul's-
tried to
Paul's really
fuel
cool.
That or
Yeah.
anything like that. Yeah.
Paul's I've met Paul just a few times, like trade show, hung out and talked. He seemed like a really nice guy to me. And I have the Tim, the big pedal. I have the big Tim pedal, which I actually lent to somebody and they haven't given it back.
Oh boy.
And I can't remember who it is.
No.
Along with my favorite compressor, the Jangle Box. If I lent you my Jangle Box, can you give it back?
Come clean.
Used to have that area in the back of the old shop under where the boxes were
Yeah.
that just had tables and carts filled with pedals, and somebody would come in, they'd go, oh, I always wanted to try one of
Yeah.
those, and Dan would go like, feel free to borrow it.
Yeah.
You just watch the stuff kind of disappear, so it could be anywhere.
100-watt Sun Coliseum, the Leslie Weston. I don't know, man. I think that might be a little tough for people to play. I like that amp, Tracy. I think that's a good idea, but I don't know as a
Plus, you
viable
need to be
product.
able to get 6550s, good ones,
Right.
because the 200-watt one's the good one, not the 100-watter.
A rotary
Yeah.
cabinet. I've thought about doing that before.
The 200 waters, and then you need to be able to buy Dynaco iron
Right,
transformers,
right.
which that's why they have bandwidth, is they were hi-fi transformers.
Kirk Spencer, can I order those pedals? We have that pedal for the whiskey. It'll work on the producer. The problem is with the producer, you got 4 states it can be in. And I don't know that I can make that work on an LED foot pedal. It'll tell you whether that particular switch is off or on, but you know, the producer has, you know, channel 1 bump on and off, channel 2 bump on and off. So there's 4 different states that amp can be living in. So,
Which is why it was almost called Four Corners instead of producer.
right.
Really?
Yeah, and then over each thing, it was.
Not by
gonna
me.
say- It was gonna say
Yeah.
like Colorado and Utah,
Right.
instead of channel, you know, like 1, 2, 3, 4.
Right. So you could stand in the middle of 4.
You couldn't turn them all on at once. That's why it went with the name
Oh, yeah.
producer
Fair enough.
instead of Four Corners.
Did you know with
is
the
you
Mesa
couldn't do that.
Quad preamp?
Boy, these
you
guys are
can?
full of beans.
No, really. Did you know that with the Mesa Quad preamp, you could press all the buttons?
It's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, it would simultaneously feed all 4 channels. So you could blend 2 channels together, like rhythm and lead.
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
How about that?
How about that?
What were the Sound City heads modeled after early Cheap Chick shows? Still ringing in my noggin. Yeah, those Sound City amps were great. I think they were just straight up like. I had one of those at the shop. It was a 50-watt Sound City, and I think it was like high watt. You know, it had Partridge transformers in it, and it was pretty straight and clean. There's 2
Yep.
gain stages and a cathode follower,
Yeah,
like
that-
a
that's
Marshall
what I
Super
remember.
Lead
That's
or a
what I
high watt or
remember
something.
those.
It just wasn't real gainy. You know, you had to push it pretty hard to get it to break up, but it sounded really good. A Bean Brigade. How about an amp with a built-in self-cleaning coffee machine? Whoa, now that, my friend, that is an idea.
Yeah. Now, the 65 branded coffee machine,
I'll license it from Starbucks.
probably, yeah, it's probably going to be a rebadged
Yeah,
Mr. Coffee.
it is.
But,
Yeah. Well, or I'll just create a modular slot where you can put any coffee machine you want. I'll license it from, you know, Braun or something, so you can go, oh, mine, it's very special. But no, so anyway, what I'm thinking about
And then
doing.
say that you made it.
now that's where...
There you go. Then I would say that you made it. I would change the color of it
Right.
and become famous on the gear page.
I'm going to claim that I
Invented coffee.
hand casted the pot myself.
Now be careful, because someone's going to think that we're kind of poking fun at somebody who would buy that. But
No, I mean, and I'm going to state in parentheses, this is total bullshit. Let's see, no, the Sound City was Dan Reeves pre-high watt. Yeah, that's right, because it struck me as being a very high watty amp. The Sound City that I have, it's louder than all dog poop, and kind of clean. It wasn't super dirty, like high watts. They're not very dirty amps.
I invented coffee.
really?
Yeah.
Miles
Old
invented
enough.
coffee.
Exactly.
Boom!
That's well,
Yeah,
If you didn't invent it, you were at least
the,
around.
the first project I was on. I was project manager figuring out uses for fire.
Yeah.
I think I'm going
You didn't
to.
invent fire, but you had
You know what we could do is
its first use.
we could invent 65 goop.
Yeah,
I want a
that's what
65
I-
coffee machine for
Why
work.
don't people goop? Okay, if you
Germanium
ever
key
wanna goop,
fobs.
if you ever want to goop something,
Uh-huh.
do not use silicone because people can peel that away.
Just pull it right off.
Go
yeah.
to a marine store and get some
Whoa.
3M 5200 adhesive.
Okay.
This is what they bond the deck and a hull of boats together
So
with.
you can make
It'll
it.
never come up.
You can make
Nobody
it.
will ever know.
It'll be a disposable board at that point. Because
Exactly.
if anything goes wrong, it's
No,
like,
that's
hey,
fine.
I'd
You
love to
can't.
work on it, but
Yeah.
I'm not a magician.
What I want to know is if some goop, or if anybody's made this claim, it's not impossible that a boutique pedal maker has made this claim.
I might
But
have
if some-
invented that.
If some goop is mildly capacitive or conductive,
Anything is.
and
Everything, I don't care if
Right.
it's wood, I don't care if it's clay,
right.
everything is to a greater or lesser extent.
So I wonder if there's ever been a case when that has affected the sound of the,
I'm
of
sure.
the thing.
I'm sure it does.
Not on
too.
purpose, not by whatever, but you
Yeah.
know, that would be something that I would wonder about. Even because there's some Fender circuits where the vulcanized fiber takes in water if it's
Yeah.
very humid.
Oh,
and
yeah.
all of a sudden becomes more conductive.
if
And
Oh,
it's
yeah.
like,
you
there's
can
nothing wrong
measure
with the amp.
You can measure it,
Right.
and that's
Right.
what happens
But
over
over
time.
time, something like this goes on, right? And so that's what another thing about the gooping. You wonder if, I'm sure that everyone will chime in and say there's no chance, but I wonder if there's something about goop that could.
No, I know people with Fender amps
Do
that
something.
are serious, that really know how to work on them, so to speak,
Yeah,
that will take the whole board out
right.
of an amp that's very old, put it in an oven
Cook it, right.
and cook it.
Yeah, you gotta dry it
Get
out.
the moisture
Okay,
out.
on to the subject. So here's what I'm thinking about 2015. Miles brought up this idea, and I had a similar idea. He kind of confirmed it, but it was just sort of a loose, nebulous thing in my head. And Miles wrote me a note over the weekend about something he'd like to see. And I think it's pretty valid. It's just doing like a 6L6 version of the Ventura, only with a little more, tone stacky kind of thing in there. So just have a grab and go 6L6 amp that's clean. And
Yeah, grid bias.
yeah, grid biased. Big.
That would be my amp.
Yeah, that'd be Frank's amp, he says, and then it'll have the all the switching options that the Ventura has. So you can go from, really clean, really dirty.
Well, the EF86, if you use pedals, is a great.
Yeah, it
EF86
soaks up
is a
pedals.
Great.
Yeah.
Very happy with pedals.
Yeah.
And then what I was mentioning earlier, I can't remember if it was on the recording or the pre-recording stuff, but I'm getting a lot of requests to go two different directions with the whiskey circuit, which is a Marshall circuit, just with some mods on it. See, like, that's honesty. Ding, ding, ding.
I've
So,
been friends with that.
I know. I don't want to buy that amp from him. It's too honest. So doing a 100-watt version of it, which I have a lot of requests for that. And then I've had a lot of guys ask also for me to do an EL84 version of it because, we're kind of known for doing EL84 amps. And, yeah, thinking about that. And with the EL84s, the dirt's going to be raunchy because those tubes distort pretty quick anyway. So you throw that much gain into it and have the master volume that Dave Friedman did for me on there. I think it'll be kind of cool. It'll have our voice, of course, because we're going to use our components and all that stuff. But I think it'll work pretty darn good. But those are the three that are at the top of my list right now.
Dan, can I bring up a tech tip in regards to
Sure.
EF86 before I forget?
Yeah, sure.
Because I'm old and I forget shit. Somebody wrote Dan or me, or maybe both of us, or on the 65 amps page, maybe over the weekend, they had a Ventura, the EF86 in it, had gone squealy and microphonic.
Mm-hmm. Which they do.
And so I basically told them you should always carry a spare and blah, blah, blah. And somebody jumped in there and said, can't you use an
E80F, yeah.
And I said, actually, yes.
You can't, it doesn't sound very good,
But yeah, it's going to have a different sound. But that's a ruggedized, it's a very, very rugged EF86.
right. And it's very, sounds kind of like this.
Well, it's like
Yeah.
when you have the EL84s, the military ones from Russia.
Right.
That they last forever, but they sound bad. But just letting folks know that is out there.
Mm-hmm.
I also have that I was going to bring to you, but I forgot. We did it over at GT,
Mm-hmm.
where it was one of those little 9-pin socket adapters that you can plug a 12AX7 into an
Yeah.
EF86. No, it sounds remarkably bad, but
It does sound remarkably
no, it
bad,
sounds
yeah.
remarkably bad, and we ended up not selling very many of them.
Yeah. I
But-
was involved with
But in a bad
with the gentleman who designed that and was asked for my opinion on it, and I was frank and honest with him then too, and
But was that
and-
Mitch?
yeah, I don't know what to say,
But well, no, I mean, it's kind of a cool idea, but if you get in a real bind, and if you don't have a spare, you could keep making sound come out.
yeah, it'll work in an emergency. I mean, I think the same guy that jumped in on that thread is the same guy that oh, that's really precarious and scares me.
Greg put it there. I didn't do it.
It's rock solid.
Okay. The same guy that brought that up on the thread is the same guy that brought those tubes over to my old shop. And it sounds okay. It doesn't sound great. They're like, there would be no compelling reason to use that tube instead of an EF86.
Yeah, aside from emergency.
Right, other than just like, I got a gig tomorrow night and I'm out of tubes. So, Kirk, what you're talking about with the clean channel that goes around the dirt channel is what the whiskey is. That's what the whiskey does with a pair of 6L6s. That's exactly what that does. And one of the only complaints that I have got about the whiskey is that the guys that want to play in their house with the master really far down, the clean channel is just too loud. So I mean, we're going to actually mod the whiskey a little bit and drop the gain on the, drop the output on the clean channel just so it'll balance a little better. Boss Amps, how is the 12AX7 wired up as an EF86 substitute? Basically, the pinout on an EF86 is very different.
Totally different.
Yeah, so you just got the right pinout on the socket, and then all of the matching made on the pins, and you stick that socket into the EF86 socket, and you end up with, this one goes to this grid, this one goes to that cathode.
Yeah, basically you could ignore the, like various aspects in the you don't. You're basically using a single triode, and you're ignoring the fact that an EF86 is a pentode. So all you have to do is only have 3 of those pins actually work in an adapter.
Right.
So it's just the anode, the cathode, and and the heater.
So Kirk, the whiskey does get a lot of dirt, but if you run the gain back, it sounds like a plain old Marshall. It's not really a headbanger. I mean, it's not uber gain. It's only 2 gain stages. It's not 4, 5, 6, 7 gain stages like a lot of these heavy metal amps. So you might be underestimating the whiskey. But a hot dog rotisserie over the tubes for mid-gig snacks. I like that. You could put marshmallows on there. Make s'mores on break. I like that. That's a good idea, Haas.
And then when the guy's like, "Why are you turning up your amp so much? Why do you keep turning up?"
Because I'm hungry.
Because it's not cooking well.
Yeah,
fast enough.
we got a big batch to do.
Yeah.
This chicken's underdone. We're all going to get sick. No, Haas, that thing just used 1 triode. It's 1 gain stage, just like an EF86, only an EF86 is a much higher gain tube than a 12AX7 is. So.
The main reason that we did that is at the time, Sovtech was supplying all of the EF86s to GT, and they were incredibly unreliable.
Yeah.
And they sounded terrible. So we thought, people that are complaining about using these real EF86s that sound terrible and are unreliable, what if we could just have something be reliable but sound terrible?
We'll sell you another terrible sounding thing.
But it was reliable.
But it won't break down.
Yeah.
It also sounds terrible.
Your amp still worked.
Right. No, I tried it. I mean, it worked. It functioned perfectly. But Kirk says, I'm somewhat dubious about the whiskey's master volume is as good as your master. Well, kind of. As far as master volumes go, I think it's fantastic. Dave Friedman designed that master volume on there. I think it works really, really well. And you've heard me mention many times, I'm not a big fan of master volume amps. This one, Friedman does the master volume really well. So we're in the same building now, so we get to interact. And I just mentioned to him, like, man, I really hate master volume amps, but yours sound really good. And he said, well, I'm not a big fan of low and medium gain amps like yours, but yours sound really good. And so we decided to do something together, kind of combine our 2 fortes. And I think it turned out really well. The master volume on there is great, but it just depends on where you have the gain on that channel. Like, you can push it up into metal world, not like uber gain crazy Bogner Dietzel world, but if you run it on 4 or 5, it's no dirtier than any of my other amps. Plus, it's 6L6s, so it's got a little bit of that in there. How about a set of hair straighteners that are attached to a gain stage? Keep the girlfriend, wife, mistresses happy. Well, that might work for you. I'll tell you what I'll do, though, Haas, is I'll put an outlet on the back of the amp so you can plug in a hair straightener.
Oh, yeah, how come nobody puts courtesy outlets anymore?
Because they're dangerous.
Well, where is they?
That, and it affects the performance of your amp.
Yeah.
I mean, you plug in noisy pedals or something into that courtesy outlet, then you're likely to hear it come through your amp. It is convenient, though. It's very convenient for putting like a little light for your sheet music. Anyway, so let me put up a little poll here. And there's a big joke sitting there, but let me see what you guys think. Let's see what you guys think. For those of you watching the recording, you're missing out.
I'm pretty sure they're fast forwarding.
Yeah, they're going, oh man, more of this rambling. These guys are killing me. Oh, look at this. Here it comes. Here comes the numbers. Oh, this is great. EL84 whiskey is running away. That's kind of what I thought.
Well, then again, you are in the business.
Well, I know, but I like to talk to the fellas, and I don't want to pretend I'm some oracle on high who knows everything. I have hunches and intuitions, but, you know, based on feedback that I get, but I really want to listen and see what these guys say. So it looks like right now the EL84 whiskey, 65% of the vote. So,
And again, keep in mind, you're addressing a primarily 65 audience.
right. Well, they're the guys most likely to buy one of my amps too.
Well, or you could
But
offer something to a market.
The 50 watt Ventura is creeping up on it now, but the 100 watt whiskey, surprisingly, only 6% of the vote. Wow. It looks like everybody who's voted wants to vote has voted. Well, that's pretty telling, I think, because I can pull that off really fast. And oh man, I put these different strings on this guitar. Do I have to put bigger strings on that for it not to go down in that nut? All right, looks like everybody's voted. There you go. All right. A phone charger. Now that's a good idea. Now I could put a USB charger on the amp.
DC, right?
Yeah.
12 volts or something?
Yeah. Who's calling me? Someone from Florida. I guarantee it's a Google listing. Poll your dealers too. Could we have a few more choices?
Oh boy.
Uh-oh. Well, those are really what.
Are black.
Yeah.
Ford said.
Well played, Bob. What did Bob say? Itchy what? Oh yeah. Those are the things I think that I'm gonna work on. A 40 watt Ventura that sounds as good as a Blackface Vibrolux Dime would be a good seller for the alt bands. Yeah. You know, like the Silverface Fenders now are popular with all the kids. More in Europe than here, but all my European dealers go, yeah, just give me a Fender-y kind of
The thing
thing.
is, with a Ventura head, you could sit there, and if you wanted to do the vibro verb kind of thing, you could plug it into a 15 or a 12 or whatever.
Well, that was, let me look back at the poll. That was in second place. And I think that's a smart move. I like the idea, though. I don't know if it'll fit in that little cabinet. It might have to go into the next size up cabinet, but
See, I came to Dan, and the reason I asked for that is the Ventura, you basically have the EF86 in it that I really like for pedals. You can get great clean tones out of it. You would get even more clean tones out of a grid biased amp that had like a 50 watt or so, 40, 50 watt capability. But then you have the various gain stages. So typically I like to carry an amp in my car. So when I go to various gigs and stuff, especially if the group I'm working with has rented backline equipment, which
Yeah.
is typically a Hot Rod Deluxe.
Yeah.
It's self-preservation. I can go to
Right.
I can go to them and say, look, I'm not gonna listen to your junk all night and bitch about it. Mind if I go to my car and bring an amp that you can use for
Right.
the show?
It makes the
And
gig more pleasurable
so
for
that's
you,
what I
right?
do, is I like to carry an amp. And to me, that's an amp that the higher gain guys would like,
Yeah.
the clean country guys would like.
Yeah.
You know, I could almost cover all bases.
Yeah.
And it's small enough that, you know, you
Yeah.
toss it behind the front seat of my car,
Yeah.
you know. and
No,
it's-
it's when I say that's my amp. I mean, I make a lot of my sounds with. I say pedals. There's still 2 preamps on board and stuff like that.
Right.
But, you know, if I'm gonna get through a whole gig, I got to cover a lot of territory. Usually we play with Seymour, and he's taking a lot of solos and stuff, and
Mhm.
I'm pretending to be a fake organ, or I'm pretending to sound like this or that or whatever. And so I make a lot of different sounds. And I'm sure as heck not gonna, sorry everyone, not gonna about plug into a modeling amplifier just to get the active, access
Variability, yeah.
to all those different sounds. I'd rather carry a board, and keep it in an analog domain myself. So high headroom, clean, big frequency range, that's what we need. And it was funny, somebody that I respect greatly was kind of poking fun, like, what is this I'm hearing when someone says this amp's pedal friendly? Like, how is that a thing? It just sounds the way it sounds. You plug your pedal in, if you like it, you don't like it, whatever.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, maybe, but it's a real thing, It either the amp is truncating certain frequencies so that it may sound good when you play it, but as soon as you try to put a different sound through it on the front end,
The biggest problem
it's
that you
now
have
different,
is some pedals, especially if you have the level turned up,
yeah,
they hit that 12AX7 that's in the front of most amps, half of that dual triode,
yeah,
and it just squashes, it just collapses in on itself. Now, if you want to do helter-skelter and hear that pick attack,
yeah,
then you want that compression and stuff. But if
Yeah.
you don't want that, having a pentode there is a huge advantage.
Okay.
Because now you can use the entire range of that level control rather than just
a window.
a certain little window.
Yeah,
Um,
that's an excellent point.
Groove Tubes had an amp called the Solo 45 that was designed to be a pedal platform.
Yeah, I remember that.
And there was a negative feedback loop that actually came in. And if you look at the board, the resistor that does that, it's marked NFB,
Okay,
negative feedback
whatever.
B, whatever.
Yeah.
Negative Facebook.
Yeah. And what I used to do for people is clip one side of that resistor and lift it, not
Yeah.
remove the resistor, but just if they ever wanted to put it
Yes.
back.
Yes.
And that would make the gain, you had gain, and it was a master volume amp.
Sure.
Now the gain, instead of it going from like 1 to 10, went from like 1 to 100 because you weren't squashing all that back.
Okay.
Now, it wasn't the pedal-friendly amp
Mod.
that it was
right.
intended to be,
Yes, yes.
but it was
It just
every
made it
bit as
better,
pedal
yeah.
friendly as a, typical Marshall
Yes.
Plexi or whatever. But a Ventura would have that wonderful clean, I mean, to me, there's somebody that keeps showing up at the amp show
Uh-huh.
that is a pedal maker, and I'm blanking out on their name, but every year they're there, and they have a Dr. Z KT45.
Okay.
And every year I walk up to them and say, for a pedal person, pedal manufacturer, you have what may be the best pedal platform that was ever designed. It's an amp that sounds a lot like a high watt, and also a lot, depending on the settings, that a Vox AC50 has. But I mean, it's basically an EF86 that's not set up for high gain, a phase inverter, and 2 EL34s. and
All right, I got to cut you guys off.
No problem.
cut us off. Go for it. You're done typing.
Hoss Thompson says, Mom, they're ignoring me on my show. I've been here making fun of you guys on the chat window. Just don't mind me.
Yeah.
You guys
That's a good friend.
talk amongst yourselves. Itchy Brother pointed out that, you know, the medium gain thing is great, and which I agree too. That's kind of my home. You know, I live in a medium gain world because I like to hear the guitar quite a bit. And there's a lot of little variations on medium gain amps, but the thing is, if they weren't big sellers when they were released, there's a hard business case for me to make them. Like, I can do a lot of weird variations on things, but I don't have, you know, I got to feed my kids with this. So I try to do what I like within a pretty wide range. And what I was pointing out on the chat window here is I like some higher gain amps too. And, you know, I spent a good part of my youth playing much higher gain amps than what I make. And I like them. I think they're fun. The reason I got away from it is they lacked clean sounds. So that's been my goal with the whiskey, is to try to offer both. And that's what we do with the little whiskey, or the shot, or whatever we want to call it, the half pint, the fifth. But somebody brought up Laney's and all sorts of other stuff. Converting my entire line to high current, low voltage, yeah. As my producers have never given me troubles. Yeah, for the larger amps, I think that makes a lot of sense. EL84s are pretty tough, cool little tubes. Like, they're not having trouble with voltage right now. It's the big bottle ones that do, for the most part. How about all three of your pedals in one housing, one power jack? That would be a very expensive pedal. That would be a $900 pedal. I might sell a few of those.
That would be 3 crowns of rebranding and rehousing.
Yes.
On your ledger.
But we're not rebranding and rehousing. We're cloning.
No,
those.
I'm saying, in
yeah.
other words, you're taking a color boost and putting it in a big.
Oh yeah, I'm repackaging my own stuff.
Right, you'd be gutting your
And
own.
you
I know.
really sell that to somebody that wanted all three.
I'm fraud.
That's the tough part.
I'm
yeah.
defrauding myself
Right.
when I do that. That's a good point, Frank. One of the things Tracy Norton brought up, which I think is cool, one of the things we're looking into doing with Frank here is doing like transformer-based versions of these pedals and some other stuff. We got other pedals in the pipe. We're just kind of on a lull right now because we're trying to get these out, but which I think they're actually, believe it or not, in production. We have the housings with the screens and the baba da bing, and they're being made.
Always wondered why people haven't used transformer outputs. Isolation.
And so our good friend Reinhold Bogner just released his new pedals that have little output transformers in them, and they sound great. They really do. You know, the Bogner pedals are in our building also. And so I got to play the prototypes, gosh, almost a year ago, and they're fantastic. I think Reinhold's hit it out of the park with these. But they're very gainy, you know, they're very, I have a couple on the board that's in San Diego that's not ever going to be built, I guess. But
Have you ever played a Fender Tone Master? In the effects loop, they have 2 effects loops and they're transformer isolated.
transformer driven, yeah.
All the difference in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. I've never played it, but I'm sure transformers are the magic key to everything. But if you get a chance, those new Bogner pedals, yeah, they have Rupert Neve designed transformers. They're not really Neve transformers, but they're Neve designed. Because Rupert doesn't make transformers anymore.
Back to the hand winding things in your sofa.
Right. No, I mean, he just designed them. They're made by a company that makes little transformers for everybody. But he designed them. It's his handprint is on there.
And right
But an
on the
output-
handprint, it says in real small print Vertex.
Right. No, there's nothing fraudulent about these pedals at all. These are the real deal. Reinhold designed them from scratch. I saw it because it's in our building. I saw the iterations of it. He did all this straight up.
Plus, if you're going to scratch off Rupert Neve's name and put Vertex on it instead, you're taking a gigantic step back.
Yeah.
Well, no, you say Vertex under where it says Neve.
Okay. So buy the Vertex gear
Okay.
and rebrand.
Anyway, back to me. The Reinhold's pedals are great. So we've talked about doing, like the germanium pedals that we have. We've talked about doing a transformer version of that as well, which does improve the sound a lot. It really, really makes it sound a lot more natural and guitar-like. And I have the prototypes of his. It is a big building. It's almost 100,000 square feet.
Yeah, it's a huge building.
When I go up to the office, I usually take my car because we're at the very end of the building. It's huge. It's about I think it's about a 7-iron. But
Yeah, 100,000 square feet.
yeah, it's long. It's very, very long. It's a block long. And
A lot
but
of fun stuff happens in that building.
there is. There's a wood shop that's bigger than most Marriotts in there. That's amazing. But-
There's two wood milling machines that are as big as a Marriott.
Yeah, the CNC machines
Yeah.
are 30 feet long.
No, you could literally take my car
Mm-hmm.
and like put it on top of the table,
Mm-hmm.
and then take another.
And then put my
Car
and,
and
then
take
put
your
my
van.
put my van on behind it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a big wood shop.
Yeah.
It's a really cool place. Frank, be careful. The gear page is watching. You know what?
Sorry, guys.
Get over it. If these are your biggest problems in life, you have a million blessings. Trust me. You're okay. 65 amp push bike. Oh, now Haas is thinking right there. That man's got his thinking cap on. I like that. I need a house so big that my family won't tell me to turn it down. Ah, Kirk. I'm sorry, man. Yeah, well, that's the guitar player's, cross to bear, isn't it? Like, can you turn that down?
Again?
Yes. And which you're technically answering the question correctly. I can turn it down.
Yeah, they have knobs. but-
Can I turn it down? It's like when you walk into a hotel and say, do you have any rooms? And they go, yeah, we're a hotel. That's what we have is rooms. Are there any open? Oh, that's a different question. Yeah.
Maybe next Thursday.
Yeah. You ever see Eddie Izzard, the comedian? He talks about how he took French like in high school and he learned all the static phrases. So he went to France with like a monkey and a table and he stood under a tree and he said, le singe est sur la branche, like the monkey's in the tree. And then le singe sur la table, the monkey's on the table, just so he could speak French with people. And he said he went into the room and said, avez-vous une chambre? Do you have a room? And the guy behind the counter said, bien sûr, nous sommes hotel. Of course we do. We're a hotel. He didn't know how to say, do you have any free rooms? He just, do you have rooms? Yes, we're a hotel. We have rooms.
Right.
Can you turn that guitar down? Yes, I can. I will. Yes, I can turn it down. No problem. Okay. It's still really loud. Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah, because I didn't turn it.
I didn't turn it down. Does your dog bite? That's right. That's, you go by Inspector Clouseau, you take it even further. Something classy like a 50 Schwinn. You're missing an N, Haas, but you're close. He was worried if his spelling was correct or not. Love that Izzard bit. Yeah, that Dress to Kill video from Eddie Izzard in like 1998. Arguably one of the funniest comedy bits. It's right up there with Richard Pryor where he's wearing the red shirt and Eddie Murphy's first thing and George Carlin's stuff. It's unbelievably funny. But yeah, and he does it all in really good French. Avez-vous une chambre? Bien sûr, nous sommes hotel. And then he said, he was talking with, what was it about the spoon? How the woman's her woman's body has the curve of a spoon, anyway, it's hilarious. You need to see it. Anyone else got a very bad connection? Are we cutting in and out? Let me look at the poll and see if that's changed at all. No, it's kind of about the same. The 100-watt whiskey got nothing, which is a real surprise. I've had a lot of people ask for that. Well, that's a good thing to know. And the 50-watt Ventura and EL84-based whiskey are the things. Because I could do both of those, because it'd be two different lines of amps. And that wouldn't be a big stretch for us. Because we are going to focus on some pedals for a while, and I think I've released a lot of amps. I'm not real keen to just keep flooding amps out into the world. But those are two sort of logical ones to do, I think. You guys got a bad connection? Am I not coming through wrong? Is it me? Or is it you? Let me do a little quick test here. See what we're doing.
They're saying that you're coming through unintelligibly.
Oh, right.
But yet but I'm saying.
That's just how he talks.
Yeah, that's not.
That's just Dan.
Don't check your connection.
I'm going to check my
Stop
connection
doing-
here really
Tell Dad to
quick.
Stop doing his French.
Right. Yeah, there's times when you're talking, I can't understand it. It
Sounds like French. Yeah, well, that was French.
Wow, you're in the red zone.
I'm getting 87 meg download,
See
89.
what happens when it switches.
The,
and goes
the,
the other
the
way.
upload is the thing that matters. And it might not register much now. I don't know, I've got plenty.
It's not too bad.
That's great. That's plenty. I only need 2 to do what we're doing now.
Could have just been when you were speaking French.
Yeah, maybe it was just the French. Is that what you're talking about?
Maybe. But now there's a ton of comments, so I think we're okay.
Yeah, connection is good here. I'm okay with you. Okay. Can you make a loop switchable on the Boilermaker? Yeah. And then we got a loop buffered pedal that we're making also. And a level control. Yes, Bob, I think that's a good idea. I think you're right. Manually scrolling the chat window. Yeah, I'm going to report this to Ustream and go, what the hell, fellas? This improvement you made is taking us back to the 90s. Especially since this is a Java insert, and this is nothing in Java. They already had it.
Stupid computers.
I know, every time.
Boss Amp says, I don't know, but at times it's hard to follow. Is it just me? Is it I'm speaking illegibly?
Allegedly,
Mm-hmm.
you're speaking in a way that can't be read?
That's right.
Yes. You have to ask a deaf person if they can read your lips.
That's right.
That would be the correct vernacular.
I don't know sign language, so sorry. That's kind of rude.
Can't you see what I'm saying?
Can you smell what I'm thinking? Gear page hacker scrambling the signal. No. Everyone on a gear page is great. I just got a handful of guys that are mad at me, so I'll just have to live with it.
Gee, that'll be hard.
Well, I don't want anybody to be mad at me, but I've explained my intentions and explained my meaning, and if you don't accept it, that's fine. That's
Well,
fine.
the travesty is some of them were upset with me, but I'm a much more likable guy.
Right. Frank is completely, even though he was here like laughing and joking the whole time with me, he just did that as sort of a
Right.
obligatory thing being on the show.
That's the tragedy. If I get lumped in.
Yes.
Being included with these yahoos.
Lamatone says, I'm only half listening and I'm getting 95% of it. Even the French?
All right.
Wow, that's pretty cool. Tupelo Willie. I don't know what that means, but I like it.
Tupelo amp.
Is there a 65 that will do a Tweety kind of thing? I think the Ventura is kind of sort of in Tweed Deluxe, Tweed Princeton land. The way it breaks up and its overall tonal thing. Very similar to that because the company that's making our transformers was one of the suppliers for Fender back then. So I think that has a lot to do with it.
Yeah, make me the 606 Ventura. I'm all in.
Work with Ustream to help their platform work. Like, yes, I'm going to go back into the software business and be on the steering committee at Ustream. Actually, I've talked to these guys on the phone, and just kind of went, guys, like I used to be in the software business. What are you doing? And they're like, yeah. And even the poor support guys like, yeah, I know. I'm sorry. They're really nice people, actually. I think they're Clean Crunch and Cortez, the killer. Hey, my, no problem. Okay.
It means by Tupelo Willie.
I still don't know what that means, and I'm intrigued.
Yeah.
I'm intrigued. I really am.
Some
Don't
people
forget to
think
let
it's
us know when
kinda
you're.
like They get it, what he means, I think.
I know.
And I have no idea what he's talking about.
I guess we're the dummies. You're insulting me.
Yeah, don't show me up on my own show.
Don't. No.
Chat window.
I'm.
Because people,
Wasn't that part
people
of the
watching
lyric
it
of
later,
the song?
maybe, but they can't see the chat window, so you can always just turn it around and be like, oh yeah, you're wrong.
Yeah.
Actually, what you're typing is incorrect.
So a number of pros on the road use 65 amps. What are they telling you they would like to see you develop? Nothing really. I mean, like I said, I've got like 8-9 amps out, and I throw a really wide net in that medium gain world. So my touring people are really loyal and have been for a long time, and there's a lot of them out on the road.
I think the three little Elvises that are out there with Elvis Costello
Yeah.
could be replaced with maybe a
The
call
Ventura.
it a little older Elvis.
Right, Fat Elvis.
Well, he's not fat,
Vegas
though.
Elvis?
He's not
Vegas
fat
Elvis.
yet, you know.
Yeah.
Could I commission new Bucket Brigade chips? I don't think so.
It's not a. There's companies who make them. They're not high headroom as he's suggesting.
Oh, here it is.
Um,
Willie asked about a Tweety amp. I recommended the Tupelo. Got it. Dirt. I went to the University of Missouri. Sometimes I ain't thinking darn straight, ain't I? Are links on? Let me turn links. I don't know if I can do that now. I don't see the option anymore.
Just try somebody. Did somebody
Post
try
a
to type
post a link and see what happens, Phil. Because we got to call it here in a minute.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, thanks for participating in the poll. A 65 combo, an HH clone. Yeah, Tracy, now you're talking. Not.
A solid state combo.
You know those ones Tracy has that he loves so much?
Yeah.
They actually sound really good. But where do I get those transistors? They don't exist anymore, do they? Censored. Yeah, you got censored, Phil. So when I do this, I don't have the option to turn on... I don't have the option to turn on links anymore in this new version.
Mm-hmm.
It used to be one of my buttons to click down here, and it's just not there anymore. Do it without the .com on it, Phil, and see what happens, and we'll just add the .com. Reverend Randy says, I keep finding more tonal possibilities in Little Elvis, so it's hard for me to know what I would ask you to do. Well, the Elvis throws a pretty wide net. It's pretty funny. Try it again, Phil, with... It'll show up on your screen, Phil, but it won't show up on ours. It shows up on ours as censored. Like, I can type cuss words and links here, and I'll see it fine, but it doesn't show up to the rest of the crowd. So can you paste it again without the .com on it, and maybe without the HTTP and all that stuff? Just the... We know www.
Yeah, you just say like Yahoo.
Right. Pat Buchanan Rocks, period. And then we'll add the .com on it and see if it works. Can you do that, Phil? Can you hear me? Oh, it's a... here we go. Let's see what it is. Copy that in here. It doesn't want to run. Tupelo versus Ventura for Tweety. I'd go Ventura over the Tupelo. Tupelo's a little more blackfacey. I mean, it does a lot of other stuff too. Like, I hate to categorize it. That's my blackface Fender, because it's not. But it does some black. It breaks up more. It's brighter. It's a little more aggressive. KMX Rock. Juggle this. Our buddy in Austin, Texas, Cliffs Over Dover, said in a video for Experience Hendrix that his lead tone's gone through the 8 ohm 412, and I assume that meant everything else rhythm is through 16 ohm. Or would 8 or 16 ohm be considered tight or loose? Still trying to figure out more about this idea. I thought you or Miles could elaborate. Gosh, I don't know. It's just, Eric has very specific desires and things that he likes. And it's hard to say why he does that. 8 or 16 ohm isn't tighter or looser. They just sound different. 8's a little more narrow.
Well,
sounding. 16's a
yeah,
little more highs.
I wouldn't try to put necessarily a label on it. What's the difference between Brown and Birch Sienna, or the difference between a Whopper and a, Carl's Jr. Superstar or Faint Star?
The amount of worms.
It's just a different. There's something called proximity, or not proximity effect. I'm blanking out on it, but like on a single-ended amp, one of the things that you can do is you can plug in a cabinet of virtually any impedance, and then you change the impedance selector switch on the amp, and you'll get 3 different tone, different types of tone, using the same single output tube.
Well, impedance
I
has
wouldn't say
a big effect on behavior. You know,
Yeah.
it's, whether you like it or not is subjective. I think it's just if you like it, it's good.
I once did an amp, had Paul Rivera do an amp for me that was an EL34 100-watt amp, and I said I want 6L6s in it, but I want the EL34 output transformer, not the proper impedance match, because I liked what happened with that
Okay.
mismatch.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean there's intentional mismatches. I mean, like on a couple of our EL84 amps, we're adding a little more impedance to the primary of the output transformer. See, I'm ungooping. Because when you bathe that tube in impedance, it reacts differently. It sounds different. Other EL84 amps we have, it's a perfect match. Some of them were supposed to be 8K. We're putting 9.25K on it, and the tube softer distortion. Anyway, so we got to call it a day because we got to get some lunch, and I got to pick up my kids from school and all that stuff. But that's been another episode of Running with Scissors with Dan Boole and Miles Rose and Frank Falbo. Thank you guys for coming by. Thanks for the feedback on the amps. I'm going to look at the poll again. Looks like the voting you guys completely stopped, which is
I think it
cool.
stopped.
The EL84 whiskey is the clear winner there. And actually, I'm kind of excited about that because I love EL84s. Yes, Kirk, I'll get some different sizes on the shirts, definitely. Perfect. And yes, thanks for the reminder on the shirts. I've taken it seriously this time.
How do your T-shirts fit those people in Norway?
They wear, it depends.
Do they only come to here on them, or what?
Yeah, their belly
No,
buttons
it's
are
like-
all sticking out. Yeah, no, I make, what I do is I
You have to
get,
do a Norwegian run.
no, what I do is I get the t-shirt dress and I put the 65 logo on it, and then it works out perfectly.
I've never met anybody from Norway that isn't twice as tall as I am.
Twice as tall.
Twice as tall. I stand next to any of them that's like,
Phil,
go
thank
like
you,
this.
buddy. All right, we'll talk about that later. Who makes the best EL84? JJ. Just, I'll explain it later. JJ. Go eat at Hyatt. Okay. I don't know what that is. What is that? I'll go eat there. Anyway, fellas, I appreciate you sincerely. And I'll see you next week at Tone Merchants.
Oh yeah.
Next week at Tone Merchants. Be there or be square. It's going to look much nicer than this. I'll have real lights, and my face won't look like I've had hot grease thrown on me. With a digital camera poopy with no lights. And it should be lots of fun. The first few shows are going to be a little ragtag and probably some boo-boos and stuff. We're going to be progressing along each week. But I think you're going to enjoy it quite a bit. Lots of thanks. Don't let the turkeys drag you down. Oh, turkeys never drag me down, Randy. No worries. The players in this town are mostly... It doesn't matter if you can play guitar or not. If you like a product, it's good. Don't worry about that, Kirk. What other 65 swag? Oh, well, there's the infamous keychain. Lebanese and NoHo. Ooh, that sounds good. That sounds very good.
get scoffs.
Oh, yeah, Miles has one. There you go. The 65 keychain. Key fob, whatever, key ring.
Don't leave home without it.
Don't leave home. Need bad theme music? I'm your guy. Yes. Make me some bad theme music with a joke. That'd be great. If you guys want to submit theme song ideas, I'm
You can
wide
play a different
open.
one every week.
I'll give you credit. Yeah, I can play different ones. That's right.
Different one every week.
Anyway, thank you again, fellas, sincerely, and we'll see you next week. Frank Falbo is typing. Oh, I see.
A question. I don't want to waste time in the show. You know.
Okay, you can get more headroom by upping the voltage on Chinese BB and actually some refuse power and higher, and even they rated higher. That was pretty good, wasn't it?
That was unintelligible.
I mean, only Jerry Lewis could do that better. I'm sorry. I'm just going to give myself one there. I mean, that was... Anyway, I was more of a Foster Brooks, I think. But anyway,
Foster Grant.
Foster Brooks is one of my favorite comedians. I love that guy. Anyway, love you fellas. See you next week. Take care. Bye-bye.